You and me.
All right, on live cam.
We're live, people.
Live. And 22, Area 22 Productions. I'm coming right over.
All right, cool.
All right.
Is it rolling already?
We're rolling.
All right, cool.
We gotta go early.
Hey, what's going on, people? This is another edition of The Jump Cut.
I am jumping, as you can tell.
I'm your host, Nigel Fullerton. This is Steve May.
Oh, he cut my thunder. Look at that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tell them who you are.
I'm Steve May.
Okay, cool.
Look at that.
Basically, The Jump Cut is a show where we talk about movies, TV, and pop culture.
Yeah, like, Bring Me the Horizon and those kinds of like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Men in Black International, Shaft, the new Shaft movie, Chernobyl, Jessica Jones Season 3, and maybe we'll get a little TNT Batman going.
I didn't watch it. So
all right, it's cool. I'll talk about it. No
Batman going.
No worries.
We were supposed to wear suits. Nigel said that's too cheesy. My suit ended up being charcoal and not black.
I felt that it was cheesy. I would not want. I know you guys would love to see us in like black suits and glasses.
I even brought in like really nice pens to use.
Yeah, but I didn't think like I would get like hate mail about wearing a suit. And,
why?
My friends would never let me live that down.
It'd be amazing.
I don't think so.
We ran into each other at the movie theater last night. We're like, yeah, we should wear. I'm like, we should wear a suit, dude. And you're like, no.
That's too cheesy.
Steve, get out of here.
It's too cheesy. I hadn't even seen the movie yet, and you were telling me to wear a suit, and I was like, I don't know. What if the movie sucks and I wear the suit and I look crazy?
We look dapper.
But what if nobody else sees Men in Black International and like thinks we're talking about Men in Black 2?
Then we still look dapper.
I don't think so. Let's start.
I'll wear a wig too.
All right, we'll start this thing off with geek news. We're a little light on geek news this week, but two things we were talking about. The new Kingsman is coming out soon.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's a prequel.
A prequel.
Prequel.
I don't know how that's going to work because wasn't the first Kingsman an origin story?
The first Kingsman was an origin story of Eggsy, not of everyone.
So
it doesn't show the origin of the actual Kingsman.
I didn't get to read the whole article, so I don't know exactly. So basically, it's going to just talk about the original Kingsman.
Okay.
All right. Next thing is Avengers Endgame is coming back into the theaters
because they need that big money.
No, well, I heard
they want those greens. They want them Benji boys.
What I heard was they're trying to beat Avatar.
Yeah, of course, and they're trying to beat Titanic too.
I mean, yeah, that too, but I mean they're closer to Avatar than Titanic. So the re-release of Avengers Endgame is going to have bonus features at the end of the movie. It's not going to like just be stuff inserted into the movie. At the end, there's going to be a lot more stuff. So you're going to see deleted scenes. You're going to see a bit of surprises, maybe even some tributes to certain people.
If Endgame came out alongside Avatar and had the whole 3D gimmick too, that's where it would have been. Because the thing is, Avatar isn't a good movie.
I won't say this is not a good movie. What I will say is, why do we need two more Avatars? Like, why do we need
the first? It's like, listen, it's basically a tale of saying, hey, we're going to come on your planet, we're going to kill all you, we're going to steal your stuff.
I mean, that's normally what America does, isn't it?
It is. It's basically like it's a play on the Native American story.
It is, so on every ethnic group story.
But it's just like, it's so... It's just the movie wasn't really interesting. It looked fine enough because Peter Jackson.
Well, I went to go see it in the movie theater, and
the thing is,
at the time, if you look at it at the time, there was nothing like it.
Yeah, but at the time, I remember hearing from people every time someone saw the movie, they're like, "Oh yeah, that movie was gorgeous in 3D, and the story was pretty good too." That's why everyone described it.
Well, I saw it both in 3D and regular.
Okay.
So my mother loves Avatar.
Did she see it in 3D?
She did not see it in 3D.
Did she see it in theaters?
She just calls it the blue people. That's her thing. She's like
the Blue Man Group.
She didn't see it in theaters. She was
planet of the Blue Man.
She was in Delaware one weekend, and like it was just on, and she was just like, "Wow, these avatars are having church." She thought they were like worshiping, like they were in front of the tree and they were doing this stuff, and my mother thought they were going to church. So.
I want to meet your mother. She sounds like a very interesting lady.
My mother's hilarious. But yeah, that's what Avengers Endgame is going to be.
Microphone action.
Sure.
Look at that.
So,
do you guys like this? Does this make you happy?
Is this your ASMR?
All right, today on the Junk Cut, we're going to review some movies.
So, let's get into the movies. Which one do you want to do first?
All All right, how about we start? We'll start with TMNT because that's you.
All right, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Batman, and what you would think, that's crazy how the two worlds can collide. It actually,
No, because you had Batman versus Scooby-Doo.
I've never seen Batman versus Scooby-Doo.
I have it on DVD.
That's bad. So Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When I heard
Dundee,
this,
how are you?
When I heard this, I was like, hell yeah, this is right up my alley because it has the two things that I love: turtles and ninjas.
Green people, yes. Yeah, he has an affinity for green people.
So basically, long story short, the story was the Foot Clan and the
Chad Kroger gang.
Gotcha. And the League of Assassins or League of Shadows or whoever you want to call them, they basically teamed up to try to take over Gotham with mutagen.
Oh, that's not a good time.
Yeah.
That's not a good time.
So basically, they were transforming their warriors into basically monsters that would go over. So they took the mutagen and they took the Joker serum and they took the Scarecrow serum. They packed everything into this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds kind of packed, but
It was packed because the Joker was in it, Penguin was in it. You also had Mr. Freeze. Poison Ivy was in it.
Sounds bad.
It wasn't bad though. That's the point.
It sounds bad.
It wasn't as bad as you would think it was.
All right, that's not a good. Yeah, it's not as bad as you expected.
No, but see, here's the thing. It's not a bad. Like it was fun.
It
was fun. Turn your brain off for a second and watch. Like it was really.
Is it like was it Batman Samurai or whatever? Ninja Batman.
It wasn't like Ninja Batman. No,
or it's like a turn off your brain kind of fun.
I wouldn't say it because I've never seen Ninja Batman. So, it like Ninjago Batman,
no,
or
I'm talking about like the Batman where it's like in the style of like feudal Japan artwork.
No,
and
this
Batman
was more.
And the Joker are like fighting with building people.
This was more in the style of like it wasn't as dark as normal Batman is. It was more.
Dundee.
It was more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle type, colorful a little bit. It was them having fun. It was Batman being a straight person and everybody else was like crazy, kind of.
And I might have to give it a watch.
There was a scene where they didn't know who was working for who. So like they thought the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were working with the League of Shadows, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thought that Batman was working with the Shredder.
Just gonna move that over.
So you see awesome fights between Batman and the Shredder. You see awesome fights between Batman and the Ninja Turtles. You see the Ninja Turtles kicking ass and taking names. Eating pizza. They ate pizza in the Batcave, which is kind of crazy.
Pizza?
Batman does not eat pizza. Batman is not about eating pizza.
No, it's just about killing people in Batman vs Superman. I gotcha.
Well, no, he killed a couple people in this movie too, which I thought was crazy for a cartoon that's supposed to be lighthearted and like sponsored by Nickelodeon. But it was actually fun. It was actually good. The jokes landed. There was jokes in this, but it wasn't cheesy. That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to get across.
It sounds like a big old block of Swiss.
It wasn't though. It was like, and like I said, I'm a little biased because I'm a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, but watching this, and I watched all the Batman like animated movies besides the Ninja one, and Gotham by Gaslight. Never seen that also. But I've seen most of the Batman, animated movies. So like Damian Wayne is in this, and he's not as like evil as he normally is. He's actually acting like a kid a little bit. Barbara Gordon's in it as well. Like it's actually really good.
Is she Oracle or is she like Barbara Gordon?
No, she's Barbara Gordon.
Okay.
They actually poisoned Batman and turned him into an actual bat.
You're turning me off of this movie.
I mean, listen, it goes like it takes a while for it to happen. That's toward the end. That's toward like the third act, but this is actually a really good movie.
All right,
and if I'm spoiling for you, sorry, it's a cartoon. I would recommend it.
Like, is it something you would definitely buy on Blu-ray and watch again?
I was about to buy it on Blu-ray and watch it again. Yeah.
All right, so there you go. That's Nige Boy's review.
You didn't like? I mean, well, you didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
Oh
I had no time. I've been recording for my band.
Listen, man.
All right, so I usually watch movies on Saturday and Sunday. My weekends are dedicated to you people. to get the show ready. But now on Saturdays, I'm recording for about 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah.
And then on Sundays, I'm getting the mix together to send out to my guitarist to produce. So it's really kind of like hard for me to fit everything in. I've been having on Mondays and Tuesdays after here too. I've been having to take care of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm performing all weekend. So
this is gonna be
and going to Wu-Tang Clan concerts.
Yeah, that's why we split it.
Yeah.
So next up, what do you want to do? We want to do Men in Black.
Let's do Men in Black.
The People in Black. Let's do it.
All right. Yes.
So this movie had a lot of not speculation. It had a bit of a stigma attached to it, right?
Has a lot of stigma attached to it.
It's kind of the next franchise after Ghostbusters, where they're giving a reboot with women in the lead role, and I think that the way they did it wasn't really as offensive as I expected it to be.
Okay,
and I'm gonna stop rubbing that now.
It's cool.
I think the way they did it wasn't as bad as I expected, and in Ghostbusters, they released a trailer. People are like, "Wow, this looks bad," and then you have Paul Feig who's like, "No, you're just sexist." And they're like, no, it's just it looks like a bad movie. And then it started that whole trend where people talking badly about a movie because regardless of a political standing in it, they get viewed as a bigot or racist. Like, for example, a lot of people didn't review Black Panther because they would be pegged as a racist.
Okay.
And same thing with Ghostbusters, because they'd be pegged as a misogynist, and going on and on from there. But looking at Men in Black, it was a tasteful way to carry the torch and pass it along. Okay. Because Men in Black was never a super serious franchise.
Never was.
It was always geared towards children. Yes. The trailer, since we watch movies all the time in the theaters, I've seen that trailer like 10 times already.
Yeah, and I thought I would really I can do this.
Yeah. I thought I was gonna really hate that movie, but as I'm sitting there watching it, I'm like, this isn't that bad. I don't think they could have done the lead with a male character, because the way they did it was so kind of endearing to me. Okay. You have this little girl whose house gets an alien in it, right? Mm-hmm. Then she looks out the window. She sees her parents talking to animal control. Right. And then they get zapped, and then she sees the alien, and she's like a young, impressionable child seeing this alien. Mm-hmm. And then as she's growing up trying to join that division of the FBI or the CIA, whatever she thinks it is. Right. And trying to find who those people are. And her entire life she made sacrifices for relationships, for like personal bonds, just because she found that passion was an illogical I guess speed bump in the way where she's trying to go.
What if she never found them?
If she never found them, she probably would have been completely different. But because it kind of gave something for her to kind of work towards. Okay. So now you fast forward from her being a young, impressionable, naive little girl to an adult who knows what she wants, constantly working towards it, constantly getting interviews with huge branches in the FBI, top tier positions.
She's passing every test.
Saying, hey, what about that secret branch though? The one with the people up there. Yeah, you mean
accounting?
You mean accounting? No, I'm talking about all the way up there. Yeah, accounting. It's just going back and forth like that. Mm-hmm. It works because it feels the way they did it was genuine. It didn't feel like they were trying to force a political agenda. It felt more like they were trying to give a character, both a man and a woman, that kids in this generation coming up could, look up to in Men in Black.
So I have a little backstory on the production part of this.
Oh boy, this is the best part.
Okay, so this movie was 4 years in the making. 4 years, yeah. So what happened was 4 years ago.
Better CGI for 4 years.
Do you remember the Sony leaks, the email leaks that happened, where people found
where Spider-Man was coming over and all that?
Yeah, a whole bunch of other stuff.
Wasn't that around when the interview thing happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Around that time.
Talking about that.
So this movie was supposedly the original pitch for this movie was supposed to be a crossover between Men in Black and 21 Jump Street.
Damn, that would have been cool.
Right. So
I don't know how that would have worked.
Right.
I mean, I guess the movie starts off in Brooklyn.
It could have worked, but like I said,
does that establish it in the same universe then?
It would have established it in the same universe, but they didn't do it. This thing has been in production hell for a long time. So I've heard stories of the director F. Gary Gray, who directed this movie. Mm-hmm. He also directed Straight Outta Compton, Friday. with Ice Cube. So anyway, Italian Job.
Yes, throwing names out, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out movies. I love F. Gray. Don't get me wrong, but he tried to quit this movie about 3 times. They didn't really say why. Sony had to calm him down because, like I said, the script had changed so many different times, so many different days.
It's a really safe script,
right? So we don't know what was going to happen. Now with the women, I forget what the highest agent in New York was, the woman, but she was also in Men in Black 3, from what I remember.
I keep forgetting that movie existed.
Right. She took over Z's part because Z is dead. That's why.
Okay.
So that's the only real tie to the other Men in Black movies. But for the most part, this was okay. It didn't wow me, and I didn't expect it to wow me. It was all right. Like, it's something that you can watch probably on like a Saturday afternoon on TNT.
It's a very safe movie. It's meant to pass the torch to a new generation of fans for Men in Black.
Right.
And I think it does it tastefully. And I think that's the points it really needed to hit. Mm-hmm. And what I was saying to my friend, because I went with my friend to see the movie, after I left Dark Phoenix, I was really disappointed. I'm like, if you're going to give me a bad movie with a very obvious plot holes, at least make it a fun ride.
Right.
And Men in Black was like pretty obvious in what was going to happen, but it was a fun ride.
I can't
say I was bored during the movie.
I mean, I think I was a little bored, but
there are scenes, but it wasn't like for the whole thing. I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, the chemistry between Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson is undeniable. Like, I call this Men in Black Ragnarok because that's what it is. You know, that's what it feels like to me.
Chris Hemsworth didn't go that hard in like the comedy section.
Yeah, but I've also seen the female Ghostbusters where he was like putting the comedy on really hard.
I remember watching that movie.
Yeah,
I felt like I was in so much pain when watching it.
Yeah, I still watch it. I don't have a problem with it.
It's just such a boring movie to me.
It's what I would call a popcorn movie. It's like you don't watch this in the movie theater, you watch it at home.
And I did watch it at home, and I really hated it.
Well, that's the thing. That part I don't know. I mean, a lot of people like the original Ghostbusters, and don't get me wrong. Like, I like Ghostbusters, but it's not a comedy. If I was going to Ghostbusters as a comedy, I would be bored.
I was going to Ghostbusters as a fun time and I was bored. But anyway, back to Men in Black. So one thing they established is that Men in Black, the introduction of women into it, where they're like, yeah, we need to change that kind of thing.
I did like that.
I don't know if they're going to shift the name of the movie, because I think Men in Black is kind of derivative of the style of like Mankind. You know, how it's like Mankind includes both men and women. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they're going to keep the brand association like that.
Well, they did say,
I do know that
they did say something like that.
Regardless of the standing or how they do it, if they do change the title to people in black, people are going to be pissed.
I think so.
And there's no way getting around
Would
that.
you go see Women in Black?
If it's a good movie, I don't care.
I think I would go to any movie that said Women in Black. But
it's like with Men in Black or any of these movies, I don't care if like there's female leads. I don't care what they're trying to do. If it's enjoyable, I'll have fun.
True.
Like you have Captain Marvel, which is viewed as a bad movie, and they said that there's political undertones in it that they were trying to push.
A lot of political undertones.
It didn't bother me. Mm-hmm. I just watched the movie. I'm like, this is a fun time. Well, hey Steve, thanks for tuning in.
It goes back to that argument that we had before. Not really argument, but about diversity and inclusion in movies and like pop culture.
And I don't think that, I forgot what episode that is, but it's in the title. If you go to our YouTube playlist on Area 22 Productions, you can see it. But going into this movie, I was going in expecting it to be bad, but it has some good cast members in it.
Right.
It's held up pretty well. It's a very safe plot. I recommend seeing it. If you want like a fun movie, you're kind of bored, I recommend seeing it.
Yeah, this is Men in Black Ragnarok, Men in Black Taken.
Wait, what's the official Men in Black International, right? That's the official name?
Yeah, Men in Black International. Or
I recommend
Black.
I think it's a very good time. I've been going to the AMC theaters, so they have the dine-in stuff.
Right.
This is the first movie I've seen since I've had my membership where I didn't feel a need to get a drink in the middle of it. So that's enough to say for itself. Because Rocket Man, I'm sitting there, I'm just like, all right, I need a beer. And then I felt the exact same when I saw Dark Phoenix.
Oh my God.
I'm just like, all right.
Rocket Man, I was just like, why am I watching this musical?
All right, well, I recommend watching it.
All right.
Do you recommend watching it?
I recommend watching. If you're a fan of Men in Black, this is a nice little.
And you don't need to see the other movies.
You don't need to see the other movies, but if you are a fan of Men in Black, I mean, this is not as bad as the other offerings of Men in Black that we've been given. It's definitely better than Men in Black 2, on par with Men in Black 3 if you like that movie. But yes, I definitely say go see this.
All right.
Especially if not for that, for the chemistry of Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, but now it's time to get shafted.
You want to do Shaft? Or you want to do Chernobyl
Let's
first?
do Shaft, because you didn't see Chernobyl.
Yeah, I didn't see Chernobyl.
So let's get
You didn't
shafted.
see Jessica. You didn't see Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Chernobyl's a long show.
All right.
That's
So is Jessica
That's like
Jones.
6 hours of content right there.
So is Jessica Jones.
Wait, you watch Jessica Jones and not Chernobyl.
True. Okay, we'll talk Shaft.
How you doing? How you doing?
All right. So basically, Shaft is the black private dick that's a sex machine to all the chicks.
Before we get into this, let's Jesus Christ. Before we get before we get into this,
that is the
before we get into this, let's talk about the history of the movies.
Okay.
Because I went into this movie completely blind. I knew that there were other Shaft movies, and this would be a retelling or a reboot or a continuation, some form. So I went into this movie blind. But Nigel have seen the previous Shaft movies.
Yes,
so
there's a lot of them.
So you want to give a previous run through of what happened?
This is real simple. Not a previous. I don't remember the original Shaft movie came out in 1970.
Better than Men in Black 2. Nigel, terminal cancer is better than Men in Black 2.
Men in Black 2 was really bad. Nick Cannon was in Men in Black 2.
All right, I'd say Men in Black International is better than the third, and I think it's right below the first. And if you want to order them.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right.
Back to Shaft.
Shaft. So the
Our
original
audience needs to get shafted.
All right. The original Shaft movie stars Richard Roundtree, directed by Gordon Parks, and it came out in 1970. It was one of the first African American led movies back in the 70s. This was the first quote unquote superhero for African Americans. Basically, he was a private.
He's more of an anti-hero, I would think.
He's more of an anti-hero. He was a black private detective who basically was basically a quote unquote badass at the time, and ladies loved him. Those were the two things. This was the beginning of the blaxploitation era in cinema, and every older gentleman that I know loves Shaft. Pause.
The very original one?
Yes, the
70s?
So from the 70s, yes. Yeah. So that was the one from the 70s. The one from 2000 was directed by John Singleton and starred Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson's take on Shaft is a little bit angrier. It fits more of
he directed it, or he was just
John Singleton directed it.
Okay, that's right.
John Singleton directed it. Samuel L. Jackson is more grittier, it was geared more towards him. However, Richard Roundtree was in the movie playing his uncle. That's where that whole joke with the uncle and the father thing happened. So it wasn't the best movie, but it was quote unquote kind of a reboot of Shaft, bringing Shaft to a newer generation.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Vinny. Bringing Shaft to a newer generation. Busta Rhymes was in that movie. Mekhi Phifer, Christian Bale, Jeffrey Wright plays an amazing performance as Peoples Hernandez. But yeah, it was all of the tropes from the original blaxploitation films. It was set up in Harlem. It had all of that stuff. Vanessa Williams was in there as well. But it was decent. Now we come to this, which is a different type of movie. It's a comedy where the other ones were more of an action, quote unquote, drama type thing.
Well, it has both. It has both in it.
Right.
I think it's a really good balance. But before we get into it, where would you rank it? Where would you rank the Shaft movies?
The Shaft. Oh my God.
How would you go about that? Because you're the expert in this. You told me to watch it after John Singleton's death.
Right. It's hard because
and I didn't because I'm not good at my job.
No. It's hard because they're dated. Like these movies are dated. Even Son of Shaft. Not Son of Shaft.
Even the first scene of the new Shaft,
it's dated.
It's a payback to that,
right? But all of them are dated. Like if you look at it, he's in this Me Too era, you got a guy that says whatever he wants to women.
But they touched upon it quite a bit, too.
Right. So
I think they did a good job of touching politics from both angles and not like really going further than that.
I like that as well.
That was really smart.
But these are totally different movies, so I couldn't rank them. And
You can't say which one you preferred?
I couldn't rank them because number one, I haven't seen the original Shaft in forever, and number two, there was different incarnations of Shaft. There was like Richard Roundtree had 2 other sequels behind the original Shaft, which were totally like crazy. And Samuel Jackson's only been Shaft twice, so I couldn't really like rank it like that.
All right, well then let's get into the review then.
Let's get into a review.
So this movie starts off.
Who doesn't love a good Shaft?
Based and red-pilled, Steve. Thank you so much for that. Be sure to listen to more of his really terrible jokes on Steve Squared every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/Steve_squared.
Yes.
All right, back to the show. So the movie starts off with where you have John Shaft is his name, right?
Yes.
John Shaft is in a gunfight.
It was 1987. It starts off.
His wife is getting, or girlfriend, I think it was
his girlfriend.
His girlfriend is really pissed off about another gunfight, and the gunfight's done incredibly well. You can see right away the movie is stylistic.
Yeah,
it has a lot of style. It's very flashy. It has like the way they did the cinematography for this movie was both comic booky,
right,
as well as retro.
Do you know who the director was?
Who was it?
Tim Story. Do you know what Tim Story
No.
directed? Fantastic Four, the original ones.
Oh. Well, it worked here, so. Hey, Moose, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
So this movie, the first thing you notice is how flashy it is. But you have John Shaft with his girlfriend and his kid. His girlfriend's like, you got to stop doing this. I've given you the warning. Get out of my son's life.
Right.
He does. Then you follow the son. He grows up to be a data analyst in the FBI. And now you're following his story as he's trying to take on his first case.
Right.
And then he comes back into contact with his father, and that's where the story begins. And what a story it is. So when I'm going to go see these movies, I'm like, all right, every movie has to be 2 hours long now.
Yes.
And I am sick of it.
Yes.
Because not every movie has to be 2 hours long.
Not every movie has to be 2 hours long.
And I was so happy this movie was 2 hours long because I just didn't want it to end.
Right.
I was having such a good time, a thoroughly good time from beginning to end.
It was actually fun. I didn't expect it to be
really strong character development.
Yes.
Really just seeing the bonds being built throughout the movie. And like I said, the way you have... there's a dichotomy there between young Shaft and old Shaft.
Right.
And I feel so disgusting saying this.
There's a lot of Shaft going on, ladies.
There's a dichotomy though, because you have John Jr.
Right.
who's the more innocent, gentrified perspective by the books.
Yeah, he's like the millennial John Shaft.
Yeah, and then you have John Sr., which isn't really John Sr., it's his father.
It's his father.
Who's more old fashioned. His father's like, you never apologize to women. He says you always got to drink liquor all the time and you got to do this. And the kid's just like, no, people have feelings. And it's that dichotomy going back and forth where there's a middle ground between the two. But the hard contrast between the two characters works incredibly well.
We'll say John Shaft Jr. We'll call him JJ. So JJ, he doesn't like guns.
He doesn't, but he's an FBI agent.
But he's an FBI.
Well, not agent, data analyst.
Exactly.
They made that point. Yeah.
Yes. And they kept making that point.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't you just say you're an FBI agent? And the whole brothers watching.
Yeah, the girl's saying, "Oh, are you an FBI agent?" She's like, "Kind of." I'm like, "I'm a data analyst, okay?"
That's not sexy.
I'm data analyst.
But you know what?
I don't know. If a girl walked up to me, she says she's a data analyst. Please, just take my number right now.
There were a couple things that were a little wonky.
I will eat you. Please stop making these remarks.
Yeah, there were a couple things that were like a little wonky.
Yeah.
Like there were a couple things that were like, the whole FBI thing was kind of a little like Hollywoody, kind of like why we have this in the movie.
Yeah, that one complaint I do have about the FBI thing is you had to be reminded that he was in the FBI.
Right.
Like you had the feeling throughout the entire movie that he was in the FBI. They did little things show you like his badge, even though it's very obvious.
It was very obvious.
But the only times you really knew is when you go back to the office and then he's speaking to his J. Jonah Jameson type boss.
Right.
Who says says to him, like, know your place, and then they go back to the whole
Well,
Shaft
see,
sequence.
the whole thing, and this goes back to the other Shaft movies, the whole thing, and they showed a little bit of it in the beginning. The whole thing about Shaft is that he was a police officer.
Yeah.
So I believe the original Shaft was also, and they both quit. They quit because of certain things that were happening in the police department.
Yeah.
And Shaft, the one that happened in 2000, Samuel Jackson got mad because a case didn't go his way. He threw his police badge at a judge and said, "I quit." So that was one of the things that is true to all the quote unquote John Shaft men. I didn't want to keep saying Shaft. So that's why I guess they were showing the whole FBI thing to show like, hey, he's working for the man.
Yeah.
You know. And John Shaft doesn't work for the man; he works for himself.
And it creates a really good interest because like the first time you really see Shaft in that. The first time you see Shaft in action.
See?
God, this is a miserable review. The first time you see him in action is when you see them go together in the when you see them go is when you see them go together inside into the warehouse where you see one of the bad guys.
Right.
And then you have just John Sr. just going ham, just pop out a shotgun from his trunk and just start. And then you have like John Jr.'s like, "What are you doing?
Right.
This isn't how things are done."
Yeah. He's telling him, and I saw him shoot one of the guys with like a beanbag. Like he didn't. It wasn't like a. I was like, oh wow, this Shaft is actually not using guns. And then he shot him in the kneecap. So I was like, he's not using bullets. Oh, shot him in the kneecap. Okay.
It's just such an enjoyable ride. And then when they bring in the action scenes and they use the comedy intertwined with the action so seamlessly,
right?
It was really done harmoniously.
I think Samuel L. Jackson was the best part of this movie because when you put him in movies, when you put him in rated R movies, you get to hear him say the MF word, and I love to hear Samuel.
But I also really think that he didn't overshadow the
he didn't
actor. Who was his name? Do you know?
The original John Shaft Jr.
Yeah,
John Shaft. I forget his name. I do know what he was in Independence Day too.
Vinny, please. I don't have that many brain cells left. But
have you ever seen Shaft in Africa? Google it.
Oh boy. But
it's a movie.
But I think Samuel L. Jackson didn't overshadow the protagonist. I think that's very important. I don't know if that's a testament to Samuel L. Jackson knowing his place as an actor.
Samuel L. Jackson knowing his place as an actor.
But the protagonist also really held his ground.
Right.
And I think that was really smart.
Right. I mean, he is a young actor. I do forget his name.
Hey, Robin, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. But he definitely said, we'll say hello to Mark. But he definitely did. Like a lot of people did their thing in this movie. There were some other things I didn't quite like. That overused trope of the friend that dies.
Yeah,
you know, it felt like I've seen this movie before. And his friend that died, like there's a lot of stuff going on with him. Like he's a junkie and in the army.
And he's also, I believe he's also Muslim. I think they said.
Yeah.
So that's
there was so much stuff that was going on with him, and he grew up with all the kids, which I did not know where they all grew up
in Brooklyn.
That's what. So Brooklyn and Harlem are so far apart that
I believe they grew up in Brooklyn.
I see. I thought they didn't grow up in Brooklyn.
Regardless, my only complaints about the movie was when they do the whole tech speak.
Okay.
The theater I was in was packed. It was a very expressive theater.
Right.
And
me too. Me too. Yeah.
It got to a point where it was actually kind of difficult to hear dialogue because people were laughing so hard during certain scenes.
Oh, it was hilarious.
But whenever they do the tech mumbo jumbo, I'm just like, that's not how this works.
Yeah,
that's not how any of this works. There's this scene where he's trying to override a security panel for a garage door, and he just like unplugs something and plugs it into somewhere else. I'm like, what? What
he was overriding it with his hands.
Ugh, so that bothered me. And they did the obvious things of the custom After Effects user interface for phones and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to take away from the movie, but it took me out of the experience.
True.
So if you like tech, that's something you're probably going to notice as well. But this movie was so much fun. It was way more fun than I thought it would be. It was way more fun than I thought it had any business being.
Yeah, me too. Like you were really when I told you about the original movies, you were like, I don't know if this is going to be good.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
It's like it's a buddy cop movie essentially.
It definitely is, but it definitely puts a fresh take on it where it's like you see 3 generations of a certain character. I'm not going to say his name again, but
Just say John.
yeah, 3 that's even because if you say 3 characters of John,
What other Johns are in the movie?
I mean John could be like your John.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, you know,
get your head out of the gutter.
I mean, we're talking about Shaft.
You got to get that shaft out of your mouth, Nigel.
I love when they said that cat Shaft is a bad mother.
But this movie, the one thing that the cinematography and the artsiness reminded me of is, I don't know if you got this vibe too, Kick-Ass.
It was a little bit of that.
The final fight reminded me so much of Kick-Ass.
Yeah, especially when they were trying to go through the windows. And stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away.
But that whole fight was great, and you see that they're just kind of like, they're not overly serious with how they're approaching these fights. They're just kind of having fun with it. They've done it so many times. Not their first rodeo.
Fun fact: most of this movie wasn't shot in New York.
I could see that.
Yeah, it was shot in Atlanta.
I could definitely see it. There were some scenes where it looked like it was. You could tell.
That's
it was New York,
why I couldn't tell like where they moved to. Like I thought they moved to a different. Like I thought they moved to.
Yeah, well, the scene when they were in Williamsburg,
Right.
Yeah, that I could tell wasn't Williamsburg.
Or like MIT.
Yeah. It's like how It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is mainly filmed in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I definitely recommend watching this movie. It was such a fun time. Bring a friend with you. Like, just sit back and relax in the theater. You know?
I listen. I loved it. I spoke to a friend today though.
Yeah.
That didn't really care for it as much as
Why?
I did. Well, the reason why, and he's a bit older than me. Shout out to Johnny. He's a bit older than me, so he like for Shaft for him. Like he grew up
With the
and that was-
action Shaft?
Yeah, the actual Shaft.
Yeah.
Pause. He didn't know it was a comedy going in.
I can't get over it.
He didn't know. I was like, how do you not know it was a comedy? He's a
I didn't
comedian.
know. I had no idea.
I mean, I told you it was more of a comedy.
Yeah, but I didn't know what level it would be.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a comedy. That's why I wanted to watch it because I knew the tone of the other Shaft movies. So I was like, how are they going to pull this off?
Yeah.
And I was like, is it going to be cheesy? And when I saw the first trailer for it, I was like, you know what? That doesn't look half bad. Because when I heard about it on paper, because the original movie was called Son of Shaft. Pause. So so it was it was like, why do I need this? Why do I want this? And you know how I feel about movie reboots.
Yeah.
You know, we watched 2 movie reboots this week.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, Men in Black, was it really a reboot or a continuation? Well, Shaft is also technically a continuation.
they're reboots. They're not really continuations.
They're continuations and reboots.
Yeah, there's a difference between a remake.
Well, it's not a direct sequel.
Right. There's a difference between a remake and a
No,
reboot.
definitely. But, you know,
So
you can have a reboot where it ignores a lot of the canon. This kept a lot of the canon of the stuff.
it kept. I mean, well, for the Shaft movie, it kept a lot of the canon.
Yeah.
For Men in Black, you know, I was hoping for a little cameo of Will Smith. Matter of fact, I had high school kids in my movie. I was mad.
Mine was like a lot of like 20s and 30s.
No, mine were high school kids, and they wouldn't stop talking. They were not into the film. They walked out.
Didn't you watch it right? You saw it right before me. They walked out.
They walked out of the movie.
All right, whatever. All right, anyway, I recommend Shaft heavily. It's a very big, fun, and throbbing experience.
I'm not going to say all the throbbing stuff. I'm just going to tell you, listen, go see Shaft. If not, come see Maj. Anyway.
Take your girl to see Shaft. Take your friends to see Shaft.
Listen, I'm taking my girl to see Shaft, definitely.
Good movie. I heavily recommend it, and I'm definitely going to buy it when it comes out.
All right.
All right, so what do you want to do next? Your show or my show?
Do your show first.
Chernobyl. Yes. All right, so this was... I didn't know this existed until like someone told me about it.
Right.
I'm not on HBO like scrolling through it. I don't watch Game of Thrones. You got time to watch a really bad final season of a show, Dexter. But going
Dexter
on,
was bad.
not the whole thing.
Not the whole thing, but like,
After season 6.
oh my God, no! Dexter was bad after season 3.
I started on 6. I loved 6.
Oh my God.
But anyway, going into Chernobyl. Chernobyl talks about the God, Steve, please stop. Chernobyl goes into the.
He wants more Shaft?
Yeah, he wants more Shaft.
Oh.
But I thought you said you were going to stop, kiddo. Chernobyl goes
He's
into
had too much.
Chernobyl goes into the events talking about the core meltdown or potential meltdown and explosion of the Chernobyl Tower 4 nuclear power plant facility.
Yeah, in 1986.
In 1986. Starts off with just something that sets the tone for the entire show. Do you think I should give it away or no for the first scene?
I mean, it's a real event.
Yeah. No, but the way they tell a story, you didn't see it.
I tried to watch it. I just couldn't grasp it.
Well, the way the show starts is it starts off with the protagonist. That's a recurring element during the show. The show is a non-fictitious tale of what happened in Chernobyl, but it's not so much so to where it's like, it's a documentary. You're following the group of people. Following the group of people who are trying to empty out the facility, talk about what happened, try to figure out what the situation was, and empty it out. And throughout the show, you're following your two protagonists, a scientist as well as a government official, trying to get everything together. And what it's showing that this event could only happen in a country like Russia, or only in a country like Russia or the USSR, Soviet Union at the time, actually. But only in a country like the Soviet Union could it be fixed as well as it was. And that's what I find very interesting, because the first thing they do when they have a meeting discussing the events of Chernobyl is they're talking about prevent people from leaving and entering the city, cut off telephone lines outside the city, kind of showing the authoritarian power of the USSR and the Soviet government.
Right.
Going into the show, you're seeing that they're talking heavily about how it's interacting with everyone. You see that no one really understands how the radiation works. And what's really smart is actually after every episode, they talk about the historically accurate events that inspired what they spoke about in that show. Talking about how, like, for example, the miners in Russia were so influential over everyone else because they were such a industry run by coal.
Okay.
That if you had the coal miners basically say no to you, you're out of luck. You're at their whim. They said, like, there's a scene where you see the officials talking to the coal miners saying where they wanted them to do something. They're like, no. And they're like, do it or we'll kill you. And they say, you can kill us. You don't have enough bullets for us, but whoever doesn't die is going to beat you to a pulp.
Is this what, like, stopped the USSR from being, like, just one of the things that, like, corrupted them?
Well, I'll go into that because the show goes into it.
Okay, cool.
But the show, I was someone who was always interested by the events of Chernobyl. I always found interest in it. I know that a lot of things don't do it justice. Like, they say, oh, look, there's radioactive dogs just running around and they have like 7 legs and 3 heads and whatever. It was like, it's more focused on telling about the people who were involved with it as well as how it reflected upon the nation. And as you're following the characters, you see that there is development happening, which is very interesting. How they go from hating each other in the beginning, from having to work together, to being friends. And while everyone says the first episode is really gripping, is very dramatic, I have to say the final episode is the best of the show. Okay. Because throughout the show, they're talking about the events that happen, and they're kind of unfurling everything. But the final episode is the court case, talking about the war crimes that happens.
So I might watch that because I do like court cases.
If you watch nothing about the show except for the final episode I think is what you should watch. You won't have the emotional impact of seeing your characters develop. But what you will have is a very interesting back and forth, and you will have interest in them explaining what happened and why the reactor went off. The first episode is kind of important to see too, because you get to see what happened in the beginning, and when you see it recalled in the final episode, it goes back and forth. But there's like really gritty themes being showed. You see people who were directly affected by radiation, like someone holding a door open in the power plant. You see their shoulders basically cut open just from the radiation.
Jeez.
You see people are like, their faces are disfigured and just burned. You see there's the scenes where they don't want the radiation to spread, so they have to go and shoot dogs on farms. It's really not meant to be pleasing. Yeah. But also the show has like people like Gorbachev in it and everything, or Gorbachev showing how the government was involved in trying to remedy this, while also trying to maintain the perception of a perfect government. Right. Because the Soviet Union,
Cold War was still happening at the time.
Yeah, but not even just that. It was built in the concept that the government was perfect, and if you saw a flaw in it, it would show that the flaw in the government is that people can't disagree.
Isn't that what's going on today.
Yeah, but that's what they heavily talked about in the show. And there's so much things going on about it, just discussing the dynamics and how they're trying to solve problems. And the one thing that they did in the movie, or the show, that I thought was really smart, is they have one character represent the entire team of the people who worked in Chernobyl. Because you can't have all those characters and give interest.
Right.
So they have one character showing all their perspectives of it, and they talk about that at the end. I thought that was brilliant.
Okay.
The soundtrack of it's very eerie, and one thing they say that Gorbachev feels that Chernobyl was what caused the Soviet Union to collapse, even though it's not obviously true.
Right.
But they also talk about how their relations with Germany and with the U.S. are going back and forth, and how they're interacting, saying that they think radiation levels are not as high as it really is, because they have Geiger counters that reach a maximum limit. They're like, but you need one that has a larger threshold. Going on about that. And one thing they did was really smart is you see them go into the power plant with the Geiger counter as the soundtrack. As it's like getting more intense. And there's one scene in the show that was super intense to me, where they walked into the power plant and you just hear the Geiger counter going crazy, and their flashlights die from the radiation. So, I don't know. I thought the show was really interesting. If you watch nothing, I recommend watching the first and last episodes at the very least.
Okay.
It's only 5 episodes long. Watch an episode a night and have a good time with it. If someone like Nigel, especially, if you like historically accurate things, and this goes into excruciating detail, you're going to really enjoy it. As I did.
I was like 3 when it happened, so I wouldn't know.
What?
I was a baby when it happened, so I wouldn't know.
But it's just a very interesting telling, and the way they told it was very cool to me. But anyway, enough for that. I recommend watching it. It's on HBO. 5 episodes, about an hour to an hour 18 each episode. Right. But now we have Jessica Jones season 3.
While Steve was watching Chernobyl, I was watching Jessica Jones season 3, which is the last Netflix Marvel show,
which we're going to touch upon too.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. So I'm going to make mine short and sweet about how I felt about it.
15 minutes.
All right. Well, still, it's short and sweet also, because I did not like Jessica Jones season 3.
Yeah.
And this is why. And it has to do with the whole issue of what happened last season as well. Last season, as we remember, we'll start from the first season with Jessica Jones. Had to deal with the Purple Man.
Well, first, did this season end the show? Like, was there definitive close to it?
It definitive close.
Okay. So I didn't watch it. I watched the first 2 seasons, but I'm going to probably watch Jessica Jones and review it next week myself.
All right. So it's up to you. Do you want me to say the key things that happen, or do you want
whatever was shown in the trailers? That's what we've been going on.
All right, cool. I'll just do what's shown in the trailers. So, I walked into this show not really knowing exactly what was going on.
How hard he was going to get shafted.
Yeah. I watched the trailer. I was like, okay, so there's no Purple Man. And that's the thing. Like, Purple Man is such a good villain that...
Yeah, that like broke the show for them when we were texting about that.
Anything else, like when you compare season 1 to season 2, like, and obviously if you haven't seen season 2 already, go watch it. But season 2 had no Purple Man. The main character, the main villain was Jessica's mother. And it kind of ended on a somber note with Trish killing Jessica's mother. And that's where we're set up for in this season. Basically, Trish and Jessica Jones, they're not seeing eye to eye in the beginning of the season because Trish killed her mother. And there's a lot of tension. You also see, I forget his name, but he used to work for Jessica Jones. He's working now for Hogarth. Hogarth is going through her whole thing where she still has this illness that she had before in the other shows, but she's setting up her own firm, and she's still doing diabolical things. Now Trish has gotten powers from season 2, so now Trish is finally walking into her quote unquote name as the Hellcat. So she is she's walking around in a mask and street clothes, and she's beating up people around the town. And Jessica's more trying to do things the straight and narrow. Jessica's actually working with the police more than she's ever worked before. So like when cases happen, when certain things, and there's like a serial killer that's this season. You know, he's one of the villains in the season. She's trying to help the police capture this serial killer.
Wow.
And Stanley Tucci plays the cop that she's trying to help out. So you have a lot of that, but the problem is that Hellcat keeps doing what she's doing, and Jessica's trying to say, hey, tone it down, and Trish is not listening as always. Trish is always headstrong. Trish is always running into things. And then you also have her mother, who is trying to capitalize off of, hey, well, Patsy is now, a superhero. How can we make this a TV show?
Oh.
So there's a lot of that in there as well. I won't give away too much, but I will tell you that they're trying to stop a serial killer that is killing everyone. And like I said, again, he is not as, when you present this.
So he's probably the bottom of, like, below the Purple Man, below Killmonger.
He's like he has no powers.
Oh, so it's just a serial killer.
Just a serial killer.
Okay. I thought you were trying to keep it vague.
No, that's as vague as it can be.
Okay.
No, that is vague because
He's just vague as a villain.
He's just a vague villain. Like, there's nothing, like, you see like in the first episode, and this is only in the first episode, I'll give this away, but in the first episode he stabs Jessica Jones. He doesn't use any power or force or anything like that. And even in the trailer, you see they talk about it. It's a serial killer.
Wow.
It's like I said, it's not Purple Man. It's not like her Jessica's mother, like, the other season. So that's why, he's not the only villain in the movie, in the whole show, but there's other villains. But I'm just telling you for now, this guy right here, they introduce other characters as well in this season. But he is one of the main villains, and they're trying to figure out who the serial killer is.
Okay. It sounds interesting. I'll definitely give it a watch.
It's interesting. I definitely didn't give anything away.
Would you recommend watching it?
If you are a completist, watch it.
This is the end.
This is the end. There
Marvel
is a
on Netflix.
I did kind of like seeing there was a cameo from Luke Cage.
You had a terrible show.
Well, tomato.
You liked it? I watched the first season. I just didn't have any interest to watch anything else.
It depends. If you're comparing it to other shows, then I don't think you would watch.
I'm just saying on its own.
On its own, I liked aspects of it. I like what
It had a good aspect. Whatever. I'm not going to get all into that because this is a Jessica Jones review. But do you recommend it?
It's 13 episodes of this. Show.
I'm going to watch it just because I want to get closure on the show. But
if you're a completionist, I would say watch it. If you're not into Jessica Jones, it's just not your thing. Don't do it to yourself. Honestly, I think the best series out of all the Netflix shows was Daredevil, and I will keep saying this.
Except for the second half of season 2.
Daredevil season 3 was the best show out of. I've watched all of the Netflix Marvel series. Trust me when I tell you this. Daredevil season 3 tops all of the other shows.
All right, I'll give it a watch.
Yeah.
One more thing I just want to review before we close out.
Sure.
Borderlands 3 is coming out in September. Borderlands 2, what they did with it is they released a free DLC. It's free with PS Plus this month. So they released a free DLC. So me and Steve over there on Steve Squared, we streamed it.
Okay.
And it was bad. Like, really bad.
Well, that's why I downloaded the Sonic Mania.
Well, you could. See, Borderlands 2. I'm not going to say. I don't think it's bad in the sense where I'm Borderlands'd out. But like Steve never played the original DLCs of that game. He played them and he loved them. So he said that, what's the deal? What gives? It's really long and monotonous. It took me about 3 hours to beat because the fun of Borderlands is the grind, right?
Right.
They give you new weapons and everything. None of the weapons really feel incredible. And at some point, I'm just running through the enemies. I just stopped caring.
Right.
So as me and Steve are like playing through this, you can see this on our live stream. Our energy is just getting lower and lower and lower because there's nothing to feed off of. The environments are really poorly designed. The new characters that they introduce are so one tone because the only new characters to the physical games are from Tales,
right?
From the Borderlands, which is incredible. But when they were in this game, I just couldn't care enough.
I believe it.
And like, I really love Borderlands as a franchise. This DLC, which has 5 hours of content, I beat the story in 3 hours. We did not want to do any side stuff. If we went back to it, I just wouldn't touch that DLC at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather if instead what they did is they took the final cutscene, did about 2 extra minutes of it, and then they added it to the next game.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who don't want to play it, I'm recommending, I'll give you those few minutes so we can be caught up. If you do want to play it, I recommend tuning out now. However, the spoilers aren't incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So the DLC takes place in Sanctuary, which is the hub.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what happens is you get this new villain to come in. They show off new enemy types, which are boring and annoying to kill, who are like infected. And basically what they're trying to show you is that the villains come in, the new enemies, they infect Mordecai, one of the OG protagonists from the first game. He somehow gets better before you deliver a serum to him. You kill the final boss in Sanctuary, and then Sanctuary just gets blown up. That's all you need to know. And it doesn't take 3 hours to tell that story. So it also what happens. It does put a close on things like Scooter dying. It puts a close on just the death of a few characters and what's going forward. However, it just wasn't in a way that I felt did the franchise justice. So, but Borderlands 2 is still a great game. I recommend playing it. It's free on PlayStation Plus right now. All the DLCs are really good too, especially the Tiny Tina one. Just don't play the new DLC. However, we are running out of time. So just quick recap: Men in Black is a watch.
Yep.
Shaft is definitely a watch.
Definitely a watch.
And a Shaft. Chernobyl is a watch. Only thing I didn't like about that, which is a very nitpick, is that the show, they're all talking, it sounds like they have Western European accents.
Oh, God. That bothered me when I watched it. It bothered you too,
right?
Yes.
So if they had either Russian accents or if it was in Russian and they did subtitles, I would have preferred that.
Yeah,
but it wasn't enough to ruin the show for me, but it was enough to take me out of the experience several times.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Batman.
Corny, but a watch.
I liked it, man.
So it's like I said, cheesy, but a watch.
It wasn't cheesy, man. I liked it.
The pizza's cheesy.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones, you said it's a watch if you're a completionist.
If you're a completionist and you want to see how Netflix ends everything, then you should watch it. If not, it's not worth your time.
All right. Well, we're going to close this out, so I just want to say I'm Steve. This is Nigel.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at DRAKONTAS_. That's Drakentas_. You can see like teasers for my music coming out with my band, and you can also follow my band Elisions, ELISIONS. We have an album that we're working really hard on, and we think you're going to really love it if you like those genres. And what about you, Nigel? Close it out while I go close out the stream.
Sure. Well,
thank you, everyone.
If you recognize this shirt, it was worn in Anya Marina episode 4. Episode 4. Yes, you can find me at Nigel Fullerton _ on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook as well. I have a show coming up in August. So in August, check www.govs.com for the Nigel Fullertons and Friends show, August 24th. I'd love for you guys to be there. This is my show that I do where I handpick the comedians that go on my show. And if you talk to anybody that knows me, you know I put on a great show. So thank you guys for watching. God bless you and good night.
Good night.